Oh my God. I hit myself in the glasses when I did that. Hi, hello, what's good? What's up? My name's Hannah. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where occasionally I read books. The ice we skate is getting pretty thin. The water's getting warm, so you might as well swim. My state's on fire. How about yours? That's not the way I like it, and I'm really quite bored. August was a month that happened. I didn't record any vlogs while it was happening. Why didn't I record any vlogs? You know, I just didn't feel like it for some reason. So we're just gonna do our best to wrap up August and be done with it and move forward with our lives. So I read 3 books this month. I've devised a system where I'm going to tell you what I liked about them in the form of a numbered list. The lists are as long as, how do I explain this? For every star that I gave a book, I put 1 number on the list. Books that got 4 stars get 4 things about them, and books that got 5 stars get 5 things about them. Is this making sense? It's the simplest thing on earth, and yet I cannot put the words together to describe how it works. We're cool? Cool. Okay. We're gonna make some tea, and then when I come back, I'm gonna talk to you about some books. Is that good? ASMR shit going. What am I doing? Okay, we're back. We have our tea. We have our brain. We're gonna make some content. So because of the way I've done the number list, I'm gonna start with the book I liked least. I didn't have a single book below 4 stars this month. Reading wise, it was a good month. It was like God herself looked down upon me. It was like, you're going through enough. So let's start with Serpent, Thorn by Bashardoust. Thing number 1, I like that it has an active protagonist. Y'all know I've been complaining in the last few months about reading books about protagonists who just don't fucking do anything. Like things happen around them or to them and they're just like, oh, I guess I am but a dandelion seed on the whims of fate. Serpent, Thorn is a book about a princess named Soraya. Her twin brother is the ruler of their country, but Soraya basically lives in obscurity as like the secret princess because she has poisonous touch, and anything and everything that she touches instantly dies because she's so poisonous. Because she has a poisonous touch, she can't really be a part of royal life. She can't really go out in public. She can't even really be a part of intimate personal gatherings with her family because she can't touch them. So the life that she leads is intensely lonely. And the entire plot of the book is set off by her starting to take concrete steps to get rid of this curse that she has. And we just love to see it. We love to see a protagonist who is the inciting incident of the plot of their book and who drives the plot forward by taking action. Soraya is an immensely sympathetic protagonist. I think that a lot of protagonists I've encountered have loneliness as a thing that they're dealing with. I don't think I have ever felt it as intensely as I have for Soraya. Like, she is so intensely lonely and you feel for her so much. And when she starts to make bad decisions to escape that loneliness, like, you get it. You're like 100% with her. You really feel for her. You're really with her as she goes on this horrible, terrible journey to try and rid herself of this curse, trusts people she probably shouldn't trust, and does things she probably shouldn't do, all for a very sympathetic reason. Thing number 2, there are sexy villains. I am a villain stan full-time, and so in every book that I encounter, I'm really looking for a villain that I can love against my better judgment. And this book has not 1, but 2. They're both equally fantastic. I enjoyed them both so much. I don't want to say too much about them because I don't want to spoil this book. I want you to go read it. But that does bring me to thing number 3, which is that this book has 2 enemies to lovers for the price of 1. This book is the bisexual agenda in book form, and I'm here for it. 4, this book has queer-coded monsters, but the good kind. Queer-coded monsters are nothing new to like queer lit discourse. We really do love to see narratives where the girl is the monster, the beauty is the beast, and that's good, actually. A quick honorable mention, this book is Persian-inspired YA fantasy. A lot of YA fantasy is like very Western inspired, and so I loved the opportunity to interact with tropes and mythological canons that I'm not super familiar with. It makes the narrative feel really fresh and new and cool. I think that the core character arc of the protagonist is really strong. If you've really been longing for like some good queer YA fantasy, this book is for you. It's gonna be fun. You're gonna have a good time. Romanticize poisoning people to death, 2020. The second book I read was An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon, and boy, I literally bought a physical copy of it. I could not live without a physical copy of this book in my house. This book was a 5-star read, and so I have 5 things to tell you about it. The first thing that I liked about it was the mystery. Ooh. An Unkindness of Ghosts is a sci-fi novel taking place an unspecified amount of time in the future. Humanity, or what is left of it for us to observe, has ostensibly fled the Earth. The narrative follows a spaceship called the Matilda. The conceit is that the Matilda is slotted into 26 different decks, each named after a letter. The decks are big enough to house thousands of occupants each. Each deck has its own unique culture and dialect. The upper decks are very nice. The lower decks are not. The upper decks are mostly populated by fair-skinned people. They have luxuries, amenities, the seat of government is up there. And the lower decks are mostly populated by dark-skinned people who live in poverty and do the manual labor necessary to keep the ship running. The plot of the novel follows a time of trouble on the Matilda when a power malfunction in the core of the ship causes widespread blackouts in the lower decks. Our story follows Aster, who is a lower deck doctor who, inspired by the blackouts, starts to research her mother, who died 25 years ago, committed suicide shortly after she was born. Aster starts to investigate the circumstances surrounding her mother's death and quickly realizes that her mother's death may have been connected to the blackouts 25 years ago and the blackouts now. It's a mystery. You like kind of follow her investigative journey, like as she tries to figure out what's going on and what was going on that led to her mother's untimely demise. Through that, you really get to understand the political realities of the world in which she lives. Which brings me to thing number 2. It's all queer. I don't think it's going to be a controversial statement to say that queer folks and people of color are just better sci-fi authors, like across the board. Like, the fact that sci-fi as a genre has been dominated by white men for so long is a crime, and the people responsible should go to book prison. Because the fact of the matter is that queer people and people of color are so much more imaginative and so much more connected to what is possible, and so the futures that they can dream up are so married to their identity, and simultaneously, like, as a result, so much more vast and rich than any cis heterosexual white man could ever come up with on his own. I'm not stating an opinion. That is factual. This book is so queer. Every single person in the narrative is some flavor of queer. It's just something that's sewn into the narrative. It's just an intrinsic part of who every single character is. Aster uses she, her pronouns, but is really only dubiously a woman. She's very fluid in her gender expression and also in how she perceives her own gender, as is her love interest, who does use he, his pronouns, but is pretty explicitly trans feminine and actually really resents being perceived as a man. The woman who raises her is pretty clearly asexual and aromantic. There are different languages between the decks, more like different dialects, and different dialects use different pronouns for people that they don't know, or children, or what have you. The society that Aster lives in is just kind of inherently queer in a way that is, chef's kiss, so good. Thing number 3, white people are bad, actually. I think I mentioned this when I was reading I'm Not Dying With You Tonight. White authors who write about subjects like this often seem to feel physically compelled to include a character who is white and an ally to the black protagonist, essentially to absolve themselves of feelings of guilt or complicity that they might have with the existent white power structure. All white people want to believe that there were good white people fighting on the side of justice so that they can experience an affinity to them. I am no different. That's how I know. This book says, fuck that. This book essentially anecdotally introduces some white characters where you think maybe that's what's going to happen. And then it's like, no, this is just how this person fits into the power structure. And this is how the white supremacist power structure acts upon our dark-skinned black protagonists. They're all bad, actually. Which brings us to thing number 4. This book said ACAB. Aster said fuck 12. This book is so anti-police. It's delightful. The Matilda is essentially a military dictatorship run basically by an authoritarian military leader who employs a fleet of guards who essentially act as police in the post-slavery America sense. They are, all of them, terrible. Even the best ones are awful. And they are incredibly abusive consistently because they have the power to be. Listen to me. Laws are threats made by the dominant socioeconomic group in a given nation. It's just the promise of violence that's enacted, and the police are basically an occupying army. You know what I mean?
You guys want to make some bacon?
And number 5, which is basically the takeaway from this entire book, is that oppressed people have the right to pursue a future reality that is both peaceful and just, no matter what the cost to their oppressors. I think that's the kind of book that I needed to read right now. And I actually think it's the kind of book that a lot of people need to read, just in general. This book was so good, you guys. It was so good. It was so good. Anyway, that brings us to our 3rd and final book of the month, which is Loveless by Alice Oseman. Not to pun on the title of this book, but I loved this book so much. So much, you guys. It was so good. You know how I said that I should stop looking forward to books? Alice Oseman is the only exception. Alice Oseman does right by me every single fucking time, you guys. Like, I said to a friend of mine, if this book is as good as I think it's going to be, I'm gonna read everything Alice Oseman has ever written. I read Radio Silence late last year or early this year. It's one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. This book was also 5 stars. Holy fucking shit, dude. Alice Oseman may very well be the best author of our generation. I am just so consistently blown the fuck away by everything that she does. Anyway, it's 5 stars, so let's get started with the list. So thing number 1, Alice Oseman surveilled me somehow from the inside and then wrote a book about it, which I think is illegal. I don't know how Alice Oseman got a fucking spy drone into my head in my first year of college, but she did, and I am so grateful. This book is essentially an unauthorized biography of my life, and I loved every single second of it. Loveless follows Georgia, who is a first-year university student, as she slowly starts to come to terms with the fact that she's never had a crush on anybody, and she is repulsed by the idea of being sexually or physically intimate with anyone, and it's kind of breaking her brain. She's had this whole idea of what her life was going to look like, and she's so surrounded, as we all are, by people who make romantic love and connection their highest priority in life. And she kind of always thought that that would happen for her, even though she's never experienced any feelings like that herself. And as she makes her way in university, she starts to realize that actually maybe she's never going to experience that. And she doesn't really understand what her life looks like if that's how it goes. She has 2 very close friends and a roommate at uni who all seem to have romantic love and sex as their first and highest priority in life. And she doesn't know what she's supposed to do if that's not how she functions. It is a coming to self identity realization story, and it fucking wrecked my whole shit. It is so good. I cannot emphasize enough how much this book perfectly encapsulates in multiple ways my existence. Like, I have never felt so seen by a book, like to the point where it's borderline invasive, where I'm like, how is it possible that you know so intimately, Alice Oseman, how I experience life? I don't understand it. And yet, here it is. I felt so fucking seen, you guys. I felt so fucking valid. I feel so fucking valid right now. Thing number 2, if you're allosexual, I don't care what you think about this book. Allosexuals do not interact. I could not give less of a shit about anybody's opinion about this book other than my own. I'm just so fucking valid. Like, you guys, this is just such a pure, unadulterated, aromantic, asexual version of life that I really could not care less if, as an allosexual person, you don't connect to it. There is absolutely nothing that I would change about this book at all. Thing number 3, everyone in this book is cute and funny, and I love them, and I want to be their friends in real life. Wow. I feel like Alice Oseman is so good at writing people. What I mean by that is that her characters always feel so multifaceted, so deep, in a way that characters very rarely do. Like, they have a life of their own off the pages of the book. You really do feel like when they are not being written, they are out having lives of their own, and that you are incredibly lucky to be with them in the space of the book. They are fully realized, incredible people that you really like, and they're genuinely funny and smart, and like, they all have their own likes and dislikes and strengths and weaknesses, and they feel so real, and I want to be friends with them, and I love them. I just love them so much. Number 4, I was so worried about this book, and I should not have been. I was so worried about picking up this book because I have read books for the representation and been so disappointed by them. I talked about Soft on Soft in my wrap up, I think last month, and I get so frustrated reading books that claim to represent me and don't. And I was so worried this book was gonna do the same thing. And I shouldn't have worried at all, because Alice Oseman's incredible and she always does right by me, and I just, fuck. Number 5, this is a perfect book. This is perhaps the only perfect book in the known universe, except for Radio Silence, which is also a perfect book. Like, Alice Oseman just keeps fucking putting up 3s. I don't know what to tell you. I like never reread books, and I want to reread this book. Like, right now. I want to stop filming and reread this book right now. I just thought I was gonna get another subpar literature crime against asexuals. But no, I got this fucking amazing book that I can't wait to share with all of the aromantic asexuals in my life. Just like, it feels so valid right now, you guys. Anyway, that's all the books that I read in August. Sorry that this is like this. You can look forward to a more normal vlog next month. I just couldn't fucking do it this month. Next month, I'm gonna be working on book recommendations that I have gotten from friends and followers. Miss Alice down in the comments of one of my last videos asked me to read A Door into Ocean, and my friend Elsie recommended Gideon the Ninth. So I will be working on both of those next month. I was gonna try to get to them this month, but yeah. If you have any book recommendations for me, please feel free to leave them down in the doobly-doo. Reading is really the only thing that's getting me through the apocalypse, so you know. I've also left links where you can help states that are on fire. There are a few of us. Bail funds for protesters, because those are still going on. A link to check if you are registered to vote, which you should be. Please register to vote and vote out Donald Trump. I really shouldn't have to tell you this. As well as other ways to support various movements that I am involved with. Life is grim, but we still have each other, so that's something. Anyway, hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on. Go play. Bye.
We're a culture bred into stupidity through one of the lowest educational systems in the civilized world. And so this fascism makes sense for America because it offers simple solutions to complex problems so that people who are too goddamn privileged to even think about it don't have to look at it. We could do so much better as a country. We have the fucking complexity and nuance in our cultural system to do so much better, and people are choosing not to. And that's the worst crime I can think of. Like, fuck y'all, do better. Do better, challenge yourselves. We're the laughing stock of the whole world right now. Put on your fucking mask. Stop acting like little children. Learn, read, have complex conversations with people who aren't like you. Do better, America, do better. Fuck.